Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Hi, we're at Neutaconkanut Park here in Silver Lake. This is an area where I grew up at, between Hartford Avenue and Silver Lake, Plainfield Avenue. And this is one of the parks where we have a recreational center, which I utilized and a lot of the families utilized. I wanted to start having my story being told here in this park in particular because I used this area to kind of think when things wasn't going well at home. Um, a lot of families come to this area, so I would be able to see friends in passing and have conversations with them. But I've been in this area for about since I was 6 years old. And then I left at 15, which I became homeless at that point. After school, I would come here. I would think about the things that I needed to get done, think about, what was going on in my household, which in terms kind of led me into homelessness because I became a runaway. And it started around 12 years old, where I felt like I was really hyper independent, and I didn't want to kind of deal with the trauma of being at home. I'm one of 6 and I am the middle girl. A lot of my siblings has been in and out of juvenile detentions. Both my parents was at home. One was battling with addiction, and which was my mother at that point. In a very young age, I think she started actually when I was like around 10 or 11, due to a lot of traumas that she went through. And my father, the traditions, it was more like whatever happens at home stays at home. But I felt like I wasn't being heard. I wasn't being, I just felt isolated. I didn't have a life where it was too much embrace. If that happened, it was once in a while. But I think the emotional traumas of even just watching my siblings struggle, my older siblings struggles, made me want to leave home. And then I was the third one. There's 6 of us, so there was 3 more left, and so I was the third to the last of the children to leave, and I left at 15. I ran away and of course stayed with a local family. We moved to another house. I was 15. We moved to another house closer to Hartford Avenue, and their house burned down. So I ended up becoming homeless, and I didn't want to go back home because I knew that I was still going to be depressed. And I was super hard on myself when I would be depressed, because not only did I struggle with depression as a youth because of my disabilities and things like that, I was self-harm. So it was harder for me to deal with stress or deal with traumas, or have those conversations with any adults. And so even though I had friends, they wasn't the best or the healthiest ones for me at that time. So I ended up staying, I think, like a week or 2 at a park just like this, off Cranston Street, called the Armory. And my best friend at that time from high school would come and stay with me, or would invite me to his house, which he lived right around the corner, and let me have dinner and let me stay with him. But the school counselors found out that I was coming in and out of school, taking showers early in the morning, and so the janitors had told my school, and my school had sat me down, my counselor, and spoke to me. And if it wasn't for those type of people who were close to me, like close teachers, counselors, I don't think I would make it. I would have made it this far. But that led me into, well, that situation of my home led me into homelessness, but it was also my own choice, and not being pretty much open to understanding my parents and their position as parents, and what they also had to go through when they was being raised. And so I ended up getting into a shelter called TLP, Transitional Living Program, which was a shelter owned by the Urban League of Rhode Island, which is no longer around. And I got involved when I was 16 until I was 20. So I graduated high school. There was a house mom there. I would go to school and go to work. And so I was really independent. And I got my first apartment on North Main Street. So I got my first apartment, and my brother was just coming home. He was in juvenile detention at that time, so he was just coming home, and me and him was really close. He's my younger brother. He's the last boy of the family, and he was the one that I could always depend on. Like, everything we did together didn't matter what. In 2011, on New Year's Day, I got a call saying that he got murdered. He was found dead in his home. I decided to up and leave Rhode Island because my stress, mental health, everything was just piling up. I didn't want to be in this state no more. I didn't want to be here no more. So I left. And unfortunately, when I left, even though I had a good plan on where I should go, it only lasts for a year, and then I ended up being homeless in 3 other states. And I decided to come back here to Rhode Island because I knew how to navigate everything. And that's what's really hard for a lot of people who get stranded in certain places and become homeless, because they don't know how to navigate certain areas or certain services, or even how to get them. So I knew that. I knew how to navigate the bus line. I knew what services were around. And so I did became homeless also when I came back, and I went to Providence Rescue Mission on Cranston St. At that point, we would have to leave every morning, and so I would leave and go to Bristol and the day shelter, which is called Good Neighbors, and I would be there. And in homelessness, you tend to latch on to people. You have insight with people. At this point, I was really close to a lot of our vets at that time, and we would play cards together and have lunch together and just talk. And they told me, hey, there's this local organization that runs our shelter. Would you like to see if you can do an intake? And so I told them, yeah, I would do anything pretty much to get off of the floor. I mean, where I was at, even though they were good and it was very structured and they tried to keep it as safe as they could, it was still traumatic because you still had to lay on the floor with a mat. My personal items, at this time I had a red backpack and a rolly luggage. So my personal items like birth certificates, social security, IDs, or any of my personal information was on my back. So I would use my backpack as a pillow to make sure that nobody steals it or anything like that. Not saying that's every circumstances, but if you're with 25 to 30 other women on the floor on a mat, and everyone's in their own situation battling what they're going through, whether it's mental health, addiction, whether it's just loneliness or just survival mode, because when you're out there, you're in survival mode. That's where you're at. And so I would lay on it, and I would keep my roadie luggage close like it was my partner, you know. And so when I finally did that intake and got into the organization, I was really happy. But I also learned a lot of things being there. I learned that the stigma against homelessness is not broad. It's not where you can say it's just one thing that leads someone into homelessness. I even found that out in other states. I mean, people get displaced all the time. People get, like our vets, get sick. You know, mental health is hard, and trauma is hard, and certain people deal with it in a certain way. But that's not everybody. And I wanted to say that in my circumstances, it was not only that I didn't want to be a burden to my family who was already trying to survive themselves, but I wanted to be independent and make sure that I had my life together. It's very humbling when you have to be out in the streets and pretty much survive on your own and know that you can't really lean on too many people. Some people, it's hard to deal with that and face that directly. I've battled mental health. I was on 7 medications. I'm on none now. And I've been working for the organization that housed me out of homelessness for about 7 years now. And I'm proud to say I am now helping other people set goals and work through their traumas, work through their survival mode, because we all get to this survival mode where you have to relearn a behavior where you're safe. And I'm proud to say that I have that opportunity to not only learn from them and look at my own stigmas, but teach them what not only what I walked, but the strength of, you know, being better, getting better, and trying to figure out what that means for them. And I'm in a good organization that had taught me a lot of that. I mean, we all can do better, but I'm really proud of the way my life had went. I led people, but it was nothing like this. It was nothing like caring and giving back and listening to stories and teaching them, and they teaching you about your own thoughts about homelessness, or even about addiction, because I battled it with my mom and seeing it. And so it had a strong stigma against it, and it was sad. But now I don't see my parents outside of my life. I couldn't. And being diverse is one of the main things that I liked about my neighborhood. You know, we had indigenous families, we had, you know, Spanish families, African American families, we have Caucasian families. Especially, I would listen outside my window, because we had a house, my dad had bought in a house and next to the church, and I would listen outside my window when I was younger, about like 8 years old. We ended up buying the house, and I would hear that Irish people, I don't know, I would mess it up, so I'm not going to say the instrument, but playing the instrument, and I'm hearing it outside my window, and it's beautiful, you know. And we all got to know each other by coming here and being together, being able to go to the pool and having lunch together. And so think about that when you think about the stigma of homelessness. We're in America. We see so many different people in so many different situations right now. People are becoming homeless because, you know, you have a good and bad side weighed out. You know, some people are buying homes, which is great, but now rent's too much for people to stay. And that also is a thing, that a transition I'm working through as well, and scared of myself, but because now I don't have that safety net of having a voucher. And so this is a perfect example. You build yourself up, you get your career, you get your life path, and you're going and you're building yourself up, but now you make enough money to be on your own. But then anyone's for paychecks away of being homeless. So we need to understand that. And right now, I'm in a situation where I'm renting a room, hopefully saving up for my own home. But again, now I'm 4 paychecks away from being homeless. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.